Hello Wargamers and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon video with me, Bubblebox, as we start with our subscriber reviews. This one, sent in by Baasler Beppe, is the British Armoured deck, or of course better known as the UK Armoured deck. Baasler Beppe also helps me a little bit with my French pronunciation, especially with the word Raphael, of course. So let's have a look. Now when I'm doing these decks, I'm going to be kind of comparing them a little bit to what I remember is in my similar types of deck. Although there's many roads to Rome, and of course different people have different ideas, and different units can be used in place of others. That's the beauty of this particular game. Also, he doesn't state what type of game he's going to be using this for. I'm just going to assume it's for kind of more spammy games. That's what it looks like to me. More spammy type games, the kind of games that I play, 10v10s and teamers. So if we start off with the logistics, he's got a Sultan as his command vehicle. As one of his command vehicles, he has got two. He's also got the warrior, but the Sultan is the one I would have chosen and the one I've got in my deck. Mainly it's reasonably quick for a tracked vehicle. It can get itself out of danger. It's got a little bit of armor and it's not over expensive at 130, and can a little bit defend itself from helicopters, as it's got a little machine gun as well. It's also brought in a warrior. It has got the Raden, so it's got a better gun. Apart from that, your stats are fairly similar. It's got a little bit more armor. Remember, these are just used as commands. Now these to me seem quite similar. The roles that these can do seem quite similar. They're both tracked, they've both got a little gun, they've both got some armor, so I don't know why you would bring both of these in. You're not going to be capturing 10 command points in a game, so I'd probably go for one or the other and not both, and that would also free you up with 5 extra points. He's got the Chinooks, which is I think a good move, something that you can get in and around the map to resupply your tanks, and remember, your tanks are the whole point of this deck. He's also got 2 sets of Alvin Stewarts, which is okay. Could have gone for 2 sets of Chinooks maybe, and 1 of the Alvis Stewarts, but he's gone for 2 Alvis Stewarts. Well, he could have gone for a fob. Now what I do in these decks, I tend to go for 1 fob and a couple of sets of Chinooks or something like that. Something really flexible. It doesn't take up too many slots of your logistics, and then you can, if you need to, you'll tend to move your tanks en masse somewhat in these spammy games, so they all kind of attack together, so you've got your firepower's all going in at the same time, and then when you pull them back, if you're hitting a lot of enemy or when the enemy responds with choppers, etc., you pull your tanks back, hide them away, and then resupply them. And for that you're going to need lots of choppers, and maybe enough this amount of supply may not be enough to do that in a long game over a longer period of time. You might want a fob and some more Chinooks maybe in place of maybe the warrior and one of the Alvis Stewarts. That's just an idea anyway. Infantry tab. Now we do differ a little bit here as well, apart from the Milan 2s, and I think these are a really good idea in an armoured deck. They can provide kind of a line beyond which your tanks can come back behind if they're getting overrun again by choppers or by enemy tanks that are pushing forward that are stronger than your tanks, and you can have the Milan sitting maybe in buildings or in tree lines that can slow the enemy down and put them off from attacking forward and annihilating your tanks before you get a chance to repair them. And he's bought them out quite right in a nice cheap truck, so you can get plenty of these out, and they're 20 points and they're a really nice anti-tank weapon. And then something I may have issue with is 3 sets of Fusilier 90s, 2 in the little trucks and 1 in the warriors. Personally, infantry for an armoured deck for me would be low priority, because it's all about the tanks, and I've actually in my deck I think just got 1 set of Fusilier 90s. Yeah, 1 set of Fusilier 90s. So yeah, I would definitely get rid of one of these. It also frees you up how many points? 5 points as well, so in your deck to spend on other things, which we'll have a look at a little bit later. Personally, I'd fill 4 slots up. I'd have Milan 2s, a set of Fusilier 90s, probably in a very cheap truck to get them, just to get them in and to do a bit of building fighting if needed. And I would also get some man pads, because you can hide those man pads around, and you're going to have people trying to snipe your tanks with helicopters. You can have people trying to snipe your tanks with anti-tank planes as well, and if you've got some well placed man pads, they can be very effective against those types of anti-tank weapons. Support-wise, he's got all 5 slots filled. We've got some mortars, which is fine, you know, if you want to get rid of maybe some anti-tank infantry from a building or from a tree line, you've got some mortars that can do that. And then he's got some chieftain marksmen, the radar guided, which are great against infantry and against helicopters as well. Not so efficient against airplanes, but they are radar guided, so you will have to micro those on and off. Then he's got the track rapiers, which are pretty good. They're only 40 points, which is pretty reasonable for a weapon that can shoot helicopters at 2,800, and they are effective at aircraft if the aircraft fly over these weapons as well, and you've got enough of them on the field. And then he has got a set of track rapier FSAs, which are of course the anti-aircraft weapon for the Brits. Personally, I think he's missing one weapon. I think we all know what it is, and it's the Stormer. Why haven't you got any Stormers in your deck? Stormers are fantastic weapons against helicopters, and in a pinch they can be used as ATGM weapons as well. Yeah, I just love these things. I would definitely have a set of Stormers in the deck, maybe in place even of the mortars or the chieftain marksmen. The chieftain marksmen I kind of like, but I think you need a lot of rapiers in front of them, because if a good player comes up against your armoured deck and sees you've got chieftain marksmen, he's going to go for those chieftain marksmen, and then he's going to attack you with his helicopters and anti-tank planes as well. So yeah, so I think, yeah, get a set of Stormers in there some way. Swap out something for some Stormers in that support section. Apart from that, I think that's pretty much fine. Tanks, well, this is the mainstay of the armoured deck. And he has got exactly the same tank setup as I would get. Of course, you get the 4 massive Challenger 4s, fantastic tank for this game, one of the best super heavies in the game, brilliant in defense and very good on the attack as well if it's got some support around it. Challenger 1 Mark 3s, he's got one set, I think, of Challenger 1 Mark 3s. And then basically these are all just a slight downgrade of each other, but they all just basically, you get a slightly downgraded gun most of the times, and a downgrade in the armor all the time as well as you go down. Challenger 1 Mark 2s, the Challenger 1 Mark 1s, full sets of each. I think he's got them vetted up as well. Yep, he's got these in Elite. He's got these in Elite as well, which is fine. And the Challengers 2s, of course, he's got them in Veteran, which they come in. And the 2 Challenger Mark 2s, Chieftain Mark 2s for a bit of fire support. And yeah, you'd probably bring them in after you've managed to get the rest of your tanks in, to be honest. They're not that effective against tanks, but pretty decent. Well, they're not really a pretty decent medium tank, but for the Brits they are. Any critiques for the tank tab? Well, just the one. Why have you left a slot here when you could get another set of Challenger 1 Mark 3s? So it comes back to get rid of a set of the Challenger 90s. This is an armoured deck, and get yourself another set of Challenger 1 Mark 3s in that last slot. It's only 1 point. Spend that 1 point on some more tanks for those big spammy games. Moving on to the reconnaissance. Now the reconnaissance is going to be pretty vital in an armoured deck, because your tanks have got to be able to see what they're what's shooting at them and what they're trying to hit. First thing to go for, yep, the Gazelles. The Gazelle's probably one of the best recon choppers in the game. Really exceptional recon, and in open ground, which is really where you want to be fighting with your tanks if at all possible, then this thing will be able to see most things apart from quite stealthy units from the opposition. And then he's gone for the green jackets. Of course, you're quite limited on what you can get for recon in the British Armoured deck. He's gone for the green jackets, and I personally would do exactly what he's done and get one in a vehicle, and he's gone for the Spartan. Well, is that the only vehicle? You can get the Pinsgauer as well. He's gone for the Spartan with a little machine gun, and get one set in the Pumas as well. That gives you a lot of flexibility, and to have these infantry units spotting for you. They're quite a decent infantry unit in their own right as well. They have got a close quarters machine gun. Quite a weak RPG, but they're not really to be used there to be using that. And then he's gone for a set of Scorpions, And there, he could have gone for either the Scorpion or he could have gone for the Scimitar. And I'm just going to put these together and just give my opinion, just from looking at it, why I personally would have gone for the Scimitar. Now the Scorpion, you do need something to spot for your tanks. The Scorpion's got a little gun on it with a 2,100 meter range, which can shoot HE. I'll give him that, 2 HE power and a little machine gun as well. Whereas the Scimitar, which costs exactly the same, has got a shorter range, yes, but it has got a little Radan autocannon which can shoot at helicopters. And with this, the role for this really should be spotting for your tanks. So you don't really want it firing anyway, so it doesn't really matter the range on the gun. So I would have gone for the autocannon with a bit of helicopter shooting power, and rather than the Scorpion. Remember, your tanks are going to be taking on their tanks, not your recon. So I would probably swap the Scorpion out for the Scimitar. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But apart from that, absolutely agree. Apart from the Scorpion, swapping it maybe for the Scimitar, absolutely agree with that recon tab. Moving on to the vehicles, and he's gone for the Radan, and that's another reason, should I say, for taking the Scimitar. The Scimitar's already got the Radan, and it costs 20 points, and now you're getting vehicles with the Radan. I mean, just get the Scimitar. You've already got the Radans then. It's 5 points more, but this is going to be like a 10v10 spammy deck, so I wouldn't worry too much. And instead of getting the Radan in your vehicles deck, I would get a set of Strikers. Not seen a great deal on the battlefield since European escalation, but the Strikers have got a very capable ATGM. It's not the most accurate, but these things fire pretty quickly and got a pretty nice range. They're not that well armored, but they only cost 40 points and you can get plenty of them. I'm not sure how many. Yeah, you can get 8 of them or 12 at trained. And I would definitely have a set or 2 of these in my deck. Again, they can kind of act a bit like the ATGM infantry, the Milan F2s. Is it F2s? Forgotten already. Yeah, the Milan F2s in the infantry tab, in that you can sit your tanks behind these when you're waiting for to do your big push or to defend anything against your tanks when you're pulling your tanks back. Centurion Avars, again, this isn't an infantry kind of, people might suggest these, but this isn't an infantry fighting deck. This is a tank v tank and obliterate everything in its path kind of deck. Helicopter wise, yeah, absolutely agree. The TOW2 launching Lynx AH7s are the only ones to go for. He's got 2 sets, really capable anti-tank or anti-vehicle weapon, and the other 2 don't really cut it. I mean, these again, these AH7 20mm are really good against infantry and light vehicles, but our tanks should be able to deal with those anyway. And the infantry in the infantry tab. Air-wise, air for me in the UK armoured deck is a little bit secondary, although I have got 4 aircraft, I think, in my British armoured deck for supporting my tanks. I would always bring these in kind of later, and I'd rely on my AA and start building my tank force up nice and early. He has got 2 Eurofighters, which is great. Fantastic air superiority fighter to try to frighten off their anti-tank weapons that they might be flying to attack you. And then he's got a variety of planes which can actually attack tanks in their own right. First of all, the Tornado GR1, probably the best cluster bomber that the Brits have got. Again, these are one of my mainstays in European escalation. Don't use them so much in Red Dragon, but they are useful in a British armoured deck, I think. And then he's got the Harrier GR7 as well with Paveway 2s. Really nice weapon. Again, with decent HE power. 4 of these Paveway weapons can do a lot of damage. And then he's got the Sea Harrier AH, or the one problem with the Harriers, of course, is they're a bit slow, which makes them very vulnerable to AA. Then he's got the Sea Harrier FA2. He's gone for Seed. Again, in an armoured deck, is Seed that important? It's important if you want to be using your Harrier GR7s or your Tornado GR1s, perhaps, but these really are your secondary weapon against their tanks. Your primary weapon against their tanks is your tanks. You don't have to worry too much about the enemy anti-air, because you're kind of going to be ignoring that to a certain extent if you're using a big armoured push deck like this one is turning out is meant to be. So I don't know what I would have gone for instead of that. Maybe another set of Eurofighters, possibly, or maybe the Jaguar, where is it? If I can find it real quick. The Jaguar GR1A, which is a nice ATGM wielding aircraft in its own right with an AP power of 30 and a decent speed and ECM as well, all for just 95 points, so you can support your tank push against their tanks. Nothing in his navy, of course. So that's pretty much it. That is my review for Baasler's UK Armoured deck. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below, what you think about what I think about it, and if there's anything you think I've missed that should be in a UK Armoured deck. Please do also put down your deck codes below if you want me to do a review on any of your decks. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.